He sat alone in the back row. No one spoke to him. No one even noticed him, until a girl in sneakers leaned down and whispered 6 quiet words. "You look tired," she said. She had no idea he was a millionaire. She just saw a man who looked like he hadn't been seen in a very long time. And from that one moment, everything began to change. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. The music was too loud. That was Owen Lockwood's first thought as he stepped into the grand ballroom. The kind with polished marble floors, chandelier ceilings, and name tags nobody looked at. People laughed a little too hard, smiled a little too wide, and moved like everyone was watching. Except no one was watching the man in the back row. He wore a suit that fit perfectly but felt like armor. His shoulders were broad but slightly hunched, like he was used to making himself smaller in crowds. A well-groomed man with sharp features and blue eyes that saw everything and trusted no one to see back. He sat alone, away from the center, where speeches echoed and glasses clinked. Every year, the company threw this event, a glittering celebration for clients, partners, employees, anyone who mattered. Owen used to stand in the front, shake hands, deliver the speech, smile for the press, but not anymore. This time, he'd slipped in quietly, took the furthest seat near the exit, and hoped the noise would drown out the ache he carried. His assistant thought he was still in Switzerland. His co-founder, well, no one asked about him anymore. He was invisible, and for tonight, he liked it that way. Until she showed up. She wasn't dressed like the guests. No sequins, no heels, no wine in hand. She wore soft sneakers and a fitted black shirt with a small gold pin that read "Event Staff." A beige apron around her waist, and a tray balanced effortlessly on one hand. She had chestnut brown hair tied back in a messy bun and warm, freckled cheeks that hadn't been touched by foundation. Her eyes scanned the crowd quickly with focus. She looked like she had somewhere to be, like someone who worked hard and didn't have time for small talk. But then she saw him, the man sitting still while everyone else swirled. She didn't approach out of duty. His table hadn't ordered anything. She didn't even carry the drink tray toward him. She simply stopped, tilted her head, and said the words that would change everything. "You look tired." Just that. No pitchy tone, no polite smile. Just honest observation. Owen blinked. He hadn't expected anyone to notice him. He hadn't expected a voice, especially not hers. It was soft, slightly hoarse, like someone who spoke carefully and only when she meant it. She looked immediately embarrassed. "I mean, sorry. That was probably out of line." He stared at her, something shifting behind his eyes. "No, it's fine." Silence. Not awkward, but new. "You just looked like you needed a second," she added, nervously shifting the tray to her other hand. "Everyone else is buzzing like bees. You're the only one sitting still." "I prefer quiet," he said. His voice was calm, deep, too calm for this party. She smiled slightly. "Then you picked the wrong place." He let out something close to a chuckle. "Story of my life." She hesitated, then leaned on the edge of a decorative pillar beside him. "Want some water?" "Real water, not the fancy cucumber kind." He nodded. "That would be great." She disappeared for a moment, returned with a plain glass of water, and handed it to him like she was giving him peace, not hydration. "You always work these things?" he asked. "Sometimes. Depends who needs staff. This one's a little fancier than I'm used to. And yet, you're the only person who said something real tonight." that caught her off guard. She glanced down at her shoes. Sorry again. You probably hear that all the time. He shook his head. No. No one says that to me. There was something in his voice. A pause. Like he wasn't just talking about tonight. She nodded softly, as if understanding more than she let on. Anyway, she said, taking a step back, I should go before someone starts yelling about empty champagne flutes. He didn't want her to go, and that surprised him. What's your name? He asked, just as she turned. She looked over her shoulder and smiled. Lena. He watched her walk away through the crowd. No one else saw her. No one else noticed the girl who just whispered 6 words that hit deeper than applause ever could. Owen took a slow sip of the water she brought him. For the first time in months, it tasted like something real. He didn't sleep that night. Not really. Not because of the event. Owen had perfected the art of surviving crowds with silence. But something about that girl, about Lena, kept echoing in his mind. Not what she said, but how she said it. Like she wasn't trying to impress him. Like she didn't expect anything. Like she saw him. He stared at the ceiling in his penthouse. Modern, expansive, with nothing out of place. And for the first time in years, he realized how cold it felt. How quiet it was in the wrong way. The kind of quiet that doesn't soothe, only reminds you how alone you are. By morning, he was dressed in the same dark suit, though now his tie was forgotten, his hair a little less styled. He checked the schedule his assistant had emailed. Another event, same venue. Innovators in tech. More suits, more branding, more noise. But she'd said she sometimes worked these events. And that sometimes was enough. He arrived early, not to network, not to be seen. He chose a corner table, this time near the service exit, away from stage lights. And he waited. The crowd poured in. The chatter built. He sipped his coffee. Black, lukewarm, untouched. He scanned the servers. Red hair, blonde, too tall, too young, not her. Then, just as the panel on stage began introducing some CEO he didn't care to know, he saw her. Lena, carrying a tray of appetizers, her face serious, her steps quick. Her bun was messier than the night before, her shoes just as practical. He watched her pause to place small plates on a high table. And just before she turned, she froze, her eyes catching his. She remembered him, and for a second her lips parted in surprise. Then a smile. Not wide, not polite, just warm. She didn't rush over. She didn't pretend to know him. But 5 minutes later, as he sat pretending to care about a speech on AI innovation, she appeared beside his table, holding a glass of lemonade. No cucumber this time, she said. Thought you might be hiding again. I'm not hiding, he said quietly. I came to see someone. Oh, her eyebrow arched. Client meeting? No, just a girl who offered me water and honesty. She flushed slightly, the compliment landing heavier than he intended. I'm not that interesting, she said, shifting her weight. I don't need interesting, he replied. I need real. For a moment, they stood in stillness. The room bustled around them. Clinks, coughs, applause. But they were in a bubble of their own. He gestured to the empty seat across from him. You get breaks, don't you? 15 minutes. If I'm lucky. Then I'd like to borrow them. She hesitated, glanced toward the catering station, then slid into the seat. What's your story, Lena? He asked. She chuckled softly. That's a big question for a lemon drink. I have time. She looked at him, her eyes scanning his face. "You're different today." "How so?" "You look lighter." "Still tired," she teased, "but less invisible." He didn't know how to answer that. So instead, he asked, "Do you always speak like that?" "Like what?" "Like you mean it." She shrugged. "If I don't, what's the point?" He smiled. A real one. Small. But it reached his eyes. Then she leaned forward slightly and asked the one question no one else had dared. "Are you okay?" Caught him off guard. It wasn't pity. It wasn't curiosity. It was care. He looked down for a second, hands clasped. "I lost someone," he said, voice low, "and I haven't known how to be in the world since." She didn't flinch, didn't ask who, didn't push. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "Loss doesn't follow rules. People do, but grief doesn't." Their eyes met again. No titles, no expectations, just two people on opposite ends of life meeting in the middle. Her phone buzzed. "Break's over." He nodded, not wanting her to go. She stood. "Same seat tomorrow?" That time he smiled first. "I'll be here." He hadn't spoken about his brother in over a year. Not to his therapist. Not to the board. Not to himself. But after Lena left the table that day, he whispered the name into the empty room like it was something sacred. Eli. Just that. And it broke him a little. The memories came like old film reels. Faded, flickering, but sharp in emotion. Him and Eli, side by side in a shared dorm room with pizza boxes and startup dreams. The way Eli always spoke first in meetings, made everyone laugh, walked into any room like the world was his to figure out. They built the company together, shared everything, until the accident. Owen never told anyone that he was supposed to be in that car, that he canceled last minute because of a migraine, that Eli went alone, that Owen had heard the crash through a phone still ringing in the passenger seat. Since that day, everything became quieter. He kept the company, the responsibilities, the title, but not the joy, not the voice that told him it was all going to work out, until Lena whispered 6 words that felt like Eli speaking through her. "You look tired," because tired wasn't about sleep. It was about carrying everything alone. The next day, he didn't wait for her to find him. He found her first, in the loading dock. She was stacking trays, adjusting plates on a cart, her brow furrowed in that focused way he was starting to find grounding. "You're early," she said, surprised. "I was hoping you'd be too." She smiled. "Are you stalking the catering team now?" "I'm stalking you specifically," he said, completely deadpan. She laughed. "That's creepy, but honest." She set down the tray. "So what brings the mysterious lemonade man back today?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he asked, "Do you believe in invisible people?" She tilted her head. "Like ghosts?" "No. Like the people in rooms no one talks to. The ones in the corner with full plates and empty eyes." She nodded slowly. "Yeah, I used to be one." Owen paused. "Used to?" She shrugged. "Until someone said my name out loud. At the right moment. Changed everything." He looked at her. Really looked. Her shirt was slightly stained from carrying too many plates. A small scratch ran across her wrist. Her sneakers were worn. And yet, she held herself like someone who didn't apologize for existing. "What did they say to you?" he asked. She smiled. "Nothing fancy. Just, you matter more than what you do." Owen let the words sink in. They were soft, but devastating. "I don't know how to do that anymore," he admitted. "Do what?" Be more than what I do. She was quiet a moment. Then she said, You don't have to. Not all at once. You just have to stop pretending it doesn't matter. That sentence landed like a slow wave. Then her walkie crackled. Someone needed her at table 7. Come back tomorrow? She asked, already stepping away. I never left, he said. That night, Owen opened an old folder on his desk. Inside, a sketched business plan Eli once made, scribbled in colored pens like a kid's drawing. At the top, in big red letters, One day we'll build something that saves people. Owen stared at it, then at his reflection. And for the first time, he wondered what Lena might build, and what they might build together. The next evening, Lena almost didn't come. She was exhausted, back-to-back events, trays too heavy, shoes too thin, and tips too small. Her coworkers said this one wasn't worth it. Just a bunch of tech guys in suits who barely looked up from their phones. But something tugged at her. Quiet thought, maybe he'll be there. And he was. Same corner seat, same black suit now open at the collar. But something was different. His posture. The way his hand rested on the table, not clenched. The fact that he was already holding a cup of plain water. He'd gotten it himself, but waited for her anyway. You came back, he said as she passed. She nodded, adjusting her apron. So did you. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't either. She took a breath and sat down across from him without waiting for an invitation. They sat for a moment in comfortable silence. And then he asked, Do you believe people can vanish while still sitting in a room? She tilted her head. You mean emotionally? He nodded. Yeah, I've seen it. I've done it. He looked at her, steady, open. You reminded me of someone. My brother. She blinked. What was he like? Owen exhaled slowly, the weight of the memory rolling through him like ocean tide. Loud, smart, the kind of person who made the room lighter just by walking in. He sounds like someone people remember. They do, Owen said, but not the way I do. She didn't press. He continued, voice softer now. He used to say this dumb thing when I was upset. Hey, you're allowed to fall apart. Just don't unpack and live there. Lena smiled at that. That's not dumb. That's real. He smiled too, and for a second, it felt like Eli was there, teasing him, nudging him, reminding him to come back to the world. You're different than most people here, she said suddenly. You don't talk like them, or act like them. He looked at her, his eyes still tired but brighter. What do you think I am? She studied him carefully. Not just a guest. Not someone tagging along for wine and startup buzzwords. He raised an eyebrow. What else? I think... She hesitated, choosing her words. You used to be at the center of it all, but something made you step back. And now you're trying to decide if it's safe to step forward again. His jaw tensed slightly, not in anger, in awe. She saw too much, too clearly. Did I get it wrong? She asked gently. No, he said. You got it exactly right. There was a pause. Then, almost playfully, he asked, You're not secretly a therapist, are you? She laughed. No, just a waitress who notices things. More than most CEOs ever do. That line caught her attention. She looked up. You've met a lot of CEOs? He froze for a split second, too short for most to notice. But not Lena. She narrowed her eyes. Wait, you're not. Not tonight, he interrupted. Tonight I'm just Owen. She watched him carefully, unsure what he was hiding. But something in his voice told her not to push. All right? she said softly. Then I'll be just Lena. And they sat there, two strangers with unspoken truths between them, not ready to reveal everything, but not pretending anymore either. The night air felt different outside the building. Colder, quieter, real. They stood by the side entrance, where catering carts rattled back inside and drivers waited for the last VIPs to exit. Lena held her coat in her arms, shivering lightly in her event shirt. Owen noticed. Here, he said, already unbuttoning his suit jacket. You'll freeze, she said. I'm used to it. She hesitated, then took it. Thanks. It smells expensive. He smirked. It smells like dry cleaning and silence. They walked slowly down the street, not speaking much at first, just walking, as if neither wanted the evening to end. Lena finally broke the silence. You ever think about quitting everything and starting fresh? He glanced at her. Every day. She laughed. I do too, but I'm poor. If I quit everything, I'd just be poor without tips. He smiled, then said, You'd still be rich in honesty. She gave him a look. That's not a currency that pays rent. No, he admitted, but it's rarer than anything I've owned. They reached the corner, where a large banner hung on a building, an ad for a tech initiative supporting mental health for founders and staff. She glanced at it absently, but then stopped. There it was, a name at the bottom of the poster. In partnership with Owen Lockwood, co-founder of EL Systems. She stared at the name, then at him. Owen didn't look away, didn't pretend, didn't deny. You, she whispered. You're that Owen Lockwood? He nodded slowly. I was. I'm not sure who I am anymore. She stepped back instinctively. Why didn't you tell me? Because you talked to me like I was someone, not something. Her eyes flashed. And you thought I'd stop if I knew? I didn't want the conversation to change, he said. I didn't want you to change. She exhaled, processing it all. She wasn't angry. Not really. Just thrown. Okay, she said at last. Then tell me now. Who are you? He looked up at the stars, his voice quieter than ever. I'm a man who lost his brother, lost his drive, and lost himself, until a girl in sneakers whispered 6 words that pulled me back. She didn't know what to say, so instead, she reached out and handed his jacket back. I don't care what your title is, she said, but if you want to walk beside me, no secrets next time. He nodded. No secrets. Then added almost boyishly, Can there be next time? She looked at him, and for the first time, she saw a man, not a name. Maybe, she said, if you bring lemonade again. The next time they met, it wasn't in a ballroom. It was in a dusty, abandoned bookstore on a quiet street downtown. The sign above the door was cracked. The windows were smudged. Inside, old shelves, faded carpet, and silence. But Lena saw the gleam in Owen's eyes as he looked around. This is it, he said, like a kid seeing something no one else could. She blinked. This is what? The beginning. He walked across the floor, his shoes leaving faint trails in the dust. It used to be a bookstore, but we'll gut it, make it open. Soft lighting, comfy chairs, no pressure, just space. She tilted her head. Space for what? He turned to her. For people like us. Her brow furrowed. You mean broke waitresses and sad millionaires? He laughed, truly laughed, for the first time she'd ever seen. No, he said, for people who are tired of pretending they're fine. Lena looked around again. The space suddenly felt alive. Like a retreat? Not even that formal. More like a pause room. For grief. For burnout. For not being okay. She walked slowly toward a shelf, running her fingers along the edge. "You're serious about this?" He nodded. Eli wanted something like this. He used to say the world needed more quiet corners. He drew a mock-up once on the back of a napkin. Lena smiled. "And now you're building it?" "With you," he said without hesitation. That stopped her. She turned. "With me. You saw me when no one else did," he said. "This shouldn't be built by someone who's trying to save face. It should be built by someone who understands the quiet." She looked down, heart racing. "I'm not qualified for this." "You're more qualified than any boardroom full of suits." They spent the rest of the day sweeping, talking, drawing sketches on the back of receipt paper, brainstorming names. And when the sun dipped low and golden light poured through the broken windows, she asked, "What will we call it?" He was quiet a moment, then said, "The back row." She blinked. He continued, "For everyone who's ever sat in the back, feeling invisible. It'll be a space where they're seen first." Her throat tightened. "That's beautiful." He looked at her, really looked. "You made it possible." And in that moment, standing among dust and old wood and possibility, she saw not the man from the back row, but the one who'd stepped forward. The grand opening was quiet. There were no ribbon cuttings, no press, no camera crews, just a handwritten sign taped to the glass door. "Welcome to the back row. Come in if you're tired." Inside, everything looked different now. The shelves had been repurposed into soft walls between seating nooks. There were overstuffed armchairs, blankets folded neatly, warm lamps. No music, no pressure, just space. A kettle bubbled gently in the background. Someone was reading on a beanbag. Someone else was sketching alone in the corner. And in the middle of it all, Owen sat. Not in the shadows, not in the corner, but in the light. He wasn't wearing a suit, just a sweater and jeans, a cup of tea in hand, and a face that, for once, wasn't hiding from the world. Lena stood near the doorway, watching him from across the room. She hadn't told him she'd come by today. She just wanted to see it, to see him. He noticed her instantly. There was no dramatic pause, no running embrace, just a quiet, grounded moment between two people who had shared more silence than words and found something sacred in it. She walked over, sat beside him. They didn't need to speak at first. The air around them was already full. But then, gently, she turned to him, and with the softest smile, said, "You look rested." He looked at her. His eyes glistened. "I am," he whispered, "because you saw me before anyone else did." She reached over and took his hand, and they sat like that, two people who had once been strangers in a noisy world, now part of something quiet and whole. Outside, the street moved on, fast, loud, endless. But inside the back row, time exhaled. And for the first time in a long time, so did he.